Well, today, Tracy, we're continuing our conversations about setting boundaries in your life. And today we're talking about boundary conflicts with friends. And specifically, we're going to be talking to compliant people because if you're compliant, then you need to watch out for these four types of conflicts that can complicate your friendship.
Yeah, so a compliant person is the person that just wants to get along with everyone. You just want to be a peacemaker. You're not looking to make waves. And so you might be a person that in many of your friendships you feel a little bit taken advantage of or feel like you wish people would be compliant towards you. Sometimes you're always the one going their way.
Okay, what I like about these four types of friendships is people out there having these conversations, getting some self-awareness, can sort of figure out where is this relationship where I'm having some boundary issues? Where does this get classified out of these four options? The first one, Tracy, is someone who is compliant interacting with someone else who's compliant.
Yeah, so in this dynamic, you're both afraid to express real desires or to be honest about your preferences. The problem with that is neither of you get what you want. So this is when you're in a friendship with someone where they also aren't really expressing preferences. They're not putting their opinions out there and they're just kind of trying to go along with whatever you want to do. So you're both kind of doing that. But the problem is we all do have preferences. We all do have desires or things we like better than others. So when neither of you are willing to express that, then neither of you are getting what you want in the friendship.
And so the solution for this kind of relationship is pretty simple. Just learn to speak up.
In fact, I've watched this with our daughter and some other people in our lives. Everybody has preferences, even on the simple things like, what do you want for dinner on Friday night? And a compliant person's gonna be like, I don't know, what do you want? I don't really care. But in their heart of hearts, as you give suggestions, maybe they're like saying, no, I don't want that. No. So they have preferences. They're just afraid to come right out and say, you know what? I feel like Mexican tonight. So a compliant person needs to feel like they can stand up and they can say what they want.
Now, the second type of conflict is between a compliant person and an aggressive controller. So if you're the compliant person, you're always saying yes to keep the peace while the other person steamrolls you. And what happens, Tracy, is you end up getting bitter and angry.
Right. So this is the dynamic where you have a friend that just maybe comes up with lots of ideas like, let's go to the spa today or let's go on vacation here. And they're just asking you to do things and you're going along with it, but you don't really want to do it. But you feel like saying no to them might mean conflict or they don't want to be your friend anymore. So you're afraid to say no, but then you're going along and doing things that you don't want. And so of course that's going to create bitterness and anger in your heart because you're like, I don't even want to be doing this, but yet we're supposed to be friends.
So the solution for this kind of conflict for the compliant person is learn to say no and stand your ground when you do.
Yes, you have to be able to say, you know what, I just don't feel up to that. I'm not interested in that. I don't have the money for that. Whatever that is, you've got to, this is a friend. You're in a friendship with someone. You have to be able to say no and be strong in your stance and not give in to their controlling ways.
So what if in the friendship you've tried that and the friend isn't responding? They're not respecting your boundaries.
Yeah, this is when you might have to take a look at who you're choosing as your friends and maybe say this particular friendship is just not healthy for me because this person doesn't honor or respect my boundaries.
All right, the third type of conflict is between the compliant person and a manipulative controller, not an aggressive controller, but a manipulative one. This is where if you're the compliant person, you're always saying yes, while the other person takes advantage of you, so you end up bitter and probably worn out, tired.
Yeah, so this is, let's say you have a friend who has a couple kids, maybe they work or they've got to go get their hair done or whatever, and they just ask you to watch their kids a lot. So in the beginning, you're saying, yeah, sure, I'm happy to do that for a friend. But then let's say, she said, well, I'll be back in an hour, and it's always 2-3 hours later. So you just feel like you're always saying yes, you're where you're supposed to be when you say, but the other person is just totally taking advantage of you and doing everything on their own time, not even caring or concerned about how that's affecting you.
Now, the solution here is to learn to confront the manipulative or passive aggressive behavior. And Tracy, I imagine That's probably hard for someone who's been compliant their whole life.
And just like with the aggressive controller, it can almost be harder on the manipulative controller because oftentimes the manipulative controller doesn't really know that they're doing it. Usually an aggressive controlling person, they know that they're kind of a steamroller and they have strong opinions and they're just kind of like, come on, let's do this thing. But a manipulative controller, sometimes it could be, they might be like, what are you talking about? Work held me up. Like they act like it's a very innocent thing. But you have to be able to just say, listen, when you do this, this is what that communicates to me. Whether that's what you intend to or not, that's what it communicates, and it hurts my feelings and it frustrates me.
Does that turn you into a jerk to articulate that to the person?
They might think you're a jerk, but what we're learning in this series is you can only control you, and you have to draw the boundaries that are right for you. And that might disappoint someone else, but otherwise, all you're doing is getting bitter and angry and resentful, and it's just poison in your own life. So it's better to be honest. You can say it in a nice way, but it's better to just say, hey, listen, when this happens, this is how that makes me feel. Give them a chance, give them the benefit of the doubt, but speak up and call it out as you see it.
Okay, the last type of conflict is between the compliant person and a non-responsive person. This is where you, if you're the compliant one, you're looking for connection, but you get rebuffed or you get ignored. So you end up feeling rejected.
In the other ones, we're talking to you, the compliant personality, saying, hey, stand up for your boundaries. This one could possibly be you needing to recognize what the non-responsive is trying to communicate to you with their boundaries, which if you're saying, hey, let's hang out, and they're slow to respond or they don't respond at all, and then they say, oh, I didn't see your text or whatever, that might be a clue that maybe you're coming on too strong, or maybe you're requiring more of their time than they're willing to give. So instead of them being honest about that and being truthful about their boundary, they're just ignoring you.
And so the solution might be, well, learn to take a hint and back off a little bit.
Yes. Maybe you have a different level of need for connection than your friend. That's not a terrible thing. So it's not bad for you to say, hey, I'd rather you just speak up and say, I can't this weekend, rather than just leaving me on unread or whatever. Also be ready to just be respectful of the fact that maybe they don't need as much connection as you need.
So these are the 4 types of conflicts that can complicate your friendship. I encourage you to think about a friendship that you're in right now that requires some boundaries and ask yourself, which one of these 4 does this fit into? And then set the boundary and create a healthier friendship.